Now, as we heard earlier from our correspondent, an international peace summit in the Egyptian capital, Cairo, has ended without a breakthrough. Regional and Western leaders have been trying to de-escalate the conflict in Gaza and ensure that aid continues to reach civilians there. Arab nations say it is now time to end the cycle of violence between Israel and the Palestinians.
Germany's Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock in Cairo for the so-called Summit for Peace. The summit's host, Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, emphasized protecting civilians, but Germany and other European countries expressed their support for Israel.
Israel has a right to defend itself and to protect its people against this terror within the framework of international law.
But some Arab countries say that Israel's airstrikes on Gaza go too far. They say Israel is the one breaking international law and committing war crimes.
Palestinians' lives matter less than Israeli ones. Our lives matter less.
One major theme was the Rafah border crossing between Egypt and Gaza. 20 aid trucks passed through on Saturday, a glimmer of hope, but a drop in the bucket for a population of 2 million people. Many countries demanded a ceasefire in Israel's war with Hamas. In the end, the participants failed to reach a comprehensive agreement.
Get more from DW's Middle East analyst, Shani Rosanes. Shani, the Cairo summit was focused on finding ways to de-escalate this conflict. Have they had any success in that regard?
Well, for most of the leaders, the very fact that they were part of this front, this very big front of Western and Arab countries, that for itself, the statement behind it, the act of solidarity with the Palestinians behind it, was a big start. Nobody had hoped. I mean, it was a bit too optimistic to think all of these players, even within the Arab world, there's so much inner strifes and disagreements on the Palestinian issue, and the Iran issue, and the Hamas issue. The idea that they will all manage to get one resolution at the end is, I think, at this time of age, a bit too optimistic, unfortunately. The key issue was taking care of the humanitarian aid for the Palestinians. We've seen more Western pledges to help, which was important. It was also a symbolic step for the Arab country to see the need for the Western world to show their support to the Palestinians, to step up, not just to Israel and its needs, but also to the suffering of the Palestinians. And in that aspect, it's a relative success for Sisi. This was his modest goal, and I think he achieved it.
Yes, we heard them talking about pushing back against what they call a global silence on the suffering of the Palestinians. You've mentioned humanitarian aid was a big topic. Can you tell us a little bit about what specifically came out of that meeting?
Well, Israel is, the main crossing point now available is the Egyptian one. Israel is very strict in what it will allow or will not allow. The biggest, most contested article now on the table is fuel and gas. I mean, of course, it is needed in order to feed the generators and the water pumps and so on into Gaza. But UNRWA itself has already said this week that there have been a case of Hamas, probably Hamas militants, taking over some of their fuel reserves. And Israel is very much concerned with how do we bring this fuel in without letting it fall into the wrong hands, without letting the militants get even more of an advantage. And so this will be, for now, they're being very strong in their insistence not to let it in, but I'm not sure how long they can, stand off this pressure.
Yeah, I'd like to ask you a little bit more about the geopolitics and potential deal makers. What about Qatar as a possible mediator here? We know that they were involved in brokering that deal to free the 2 American women hostages.
Correct.
Earlier.
We've seen it over the weekend. Qatar is actually in an unbelievable position. It manages to be simultaneously an ally to Hamas and Iran, and at the same time also to the US. The biggest American base in the Middle East is located in Qatar, which also gives them a lot of leverage and connections with the Americans. So they manage, the Qatar and the Saudis, who are their neighboring big, influential country, have a very contested relationship with a very complex history, connected also to the Qataris' connections with Iran, which is Saudi Arabia's arch enemy. So interestingly enough, this very small kingdom manages to be now a kingmaker, a power player, and hopefully maybe the only force in the region to help in bringing out some of the hostages that are kept in Gaza.
Tell me more about the situation of those hostages. I understand we've been talking about a looming ground offensive potentially from Israeli forces. And I know there is criticism from some families within Israel about a ground offensive that could also jeopardize hostages there. What is that debate looking like at the moment?
A lot of painful dilemmas for Israelis. On the one hand, exactly, there's the pressure from the families of the hostages, and we also hear from Qataris. There's an interview today for the German publication Welt, where a top aide of the foreign minister of Qatar saying he believes they are close to being able to bring some hostages out. So there's always these hopes, there's always this trickle of rumors, which plays in a psychological warfare a very crucial role, and perhaps Israeli defense officials are concerned maybe this is an attempt for Hamas to push away Israeli invasion or Israeli ground operation. So far, it seems to be working. Israel is very careful. I think everybody expected Israel to be far more aggressive in its incursion into Gaza. So far, it's been a bit more cautious, probably because of that. Still, the next days are crucial in bringing solution to the hostages situation.
Shani, thank you so much for that analysis. That is DW's Middle East analyst, Shani Rosanes.